Just unreal. That's all we can say, it's unreal.
But the reality, the Sockeye wildfire destroyed more than 50 homes near Willow, including Justin and Jaimee High's house, one that they had just finished rebuilding after a fire 6 months earlier.
Hopefully our luck has changed. I'm hoping.
We followed the Highs through their rebuilding process. They share what they've learned as they begin a new chapter in their lives. And Greenland, a place where you're likely to find bilingual and even trilingual speakers. Later on Frontiers, Heather Hintze brings us the sounds of the North all the way from the Arctic Winter Games.
Sponsorship for Frontiers with Rhonda McBride is provided by Kupik Corporation and Spinard Builders Supply. Alaska, where there are old triumphs, but also new frontiers, with challenges as great as the state itself, but a belief the best is yet to come, bringing you the faces, the places, and the spirit of the last frontier. This is Frontiers with Rhonda McBride.
Welcome to our program. Well, many of those who move to Alaska come to find their personal frontiers, and they stay because they fall in love with a lifestyle that you really can't have anywhere else. Rarely is that love put to a test, as it was for a young couple who came to Alaska to mush dogs, not build houses. December 2014, Justin and Jaimee High lost their home in an electrical fire. The mushers saved their dog team, but not much else, and they had no insurance. But family and friends helped them raise money to build again. Things seemed to be going well, but the day the roof went up, an ominous cloud of smoke appeared. Soon, these bright orange flames would turn more than 50 homes into rubble, and that included the High's new house. The Highs had taken out an insurance policy just a few days before the fire, but it apparently hadn't taken effect just yet.
I cannot lose everything again. I'm like, it's not possible. We can't do that.
The Highs and their dogs took refuge at Martin Boozer's homestead. The Iditarod champ's hospitality came at an important time.
Lucky. At the end of January, we're going to be parents. So they're excited about that, but...
Kind of bad timing.
Just days before the fire struck, Jaimee learned of her pregnancy.
Everybody needs that spot of good news right now, so we're going to let everybody know.
In the days after the fire, there were hot spots which threatened what was left of their belongings. But news of their baby helped put things in perspective. When the Highs evacuated, Jaimee made sure she took her wedding ring with her. In the first fire, she found it in the rubble, fused to a crystal dish.
Hope, really, that you never know. And it really turns out to be, the little things that you treasure the most.
Got some good news. Their insurance company honored their request for a policy, making it possible to hire workers to help them rebuild. During that time, they lived in this one-room cabin.
We don't have the best cooking facilities yet, so you're always trying to figure out how are we going to do dinner. We're happy to be home. We're very happy to be home.
Justin somehow managed to juggle his day job and the work here, and survive on very little sleep.
I don't know if it makes you stronger, it just, it shows you your true character.
We didn't see Justin again until the first snowfall. He was alone. Jaimee moved in with her family in Idaho temporarily. There were worries the dust and debris might hurt the baby she was carrying. In the meantime, Justin had some stout four-legged company, Mr. Collins.
Just watch that camera, man.
While Mr. Collins provides some comic relief, he's also a reminder that it helps to have some bulldog DNA in you. to rise above adversity.
It's just so overwhelming. You just do what you can do.
But Justin has some powerful motivation to keep going. He proudly shows off this sonogram.
That's the wee guy.
Or gal. Just as the house nears completion, Jaimee returns.
6 months pregnant and no running water isn't that much fun. So
It won't be long before the toilet goes in and the Highs will win their race to move in before their baby is born. As the Iditarod approaches, there are signs the neighborhood is returning to normal. Jaimee is back in the business of sewing specialty gear for dog mushers. The first fire destroyed her machines, but the new ones she brought to replace them were in storage when the second fire struck.
I know.
And speaking of the Highs' new life,
We have Izzy, which is just a real blessing.
the Highs really haven't had time to reflect on the past year.
We've been busy, huh, Bulldog?
They admit it's put their love to a test.
So what are you going to tell Izzy 10 years, 20 years from now?
I personally don't think she's going to care.
But I bet she'd be proud of you.
Hoping that she knows that her parents have, a drive and, don't give up on things that easily.
Like their Iditarod dreams, they both moved to Alaska to handle dogs for DeeDee Jonrowe and wound up falling in love.
And then there was Izzy. It's kind of like the start of a new chapter.
DeeDee is also ready to start a new chapter. She too lost almost everything in the Sockeye fire. Some people thought she would never make it to this point, but here she is at the ceremonial start of the Iditarod.
She's 5 weeks today.
Izzy will ride on a tag sled with her mom. Justin's parents are here to watch, proud of both Izzy and her parents.
I didn't know how they were going to do it, but they did it.
My son can do, and Jaimee can do anything they put their mind to. Good baby, good baby. Watch out, world, because the Highs are on their way.
And so is Izzy. Jaimee High finished the Iditarod in 2012. Well, before the first fire, she was training to run again, but with her sewing business and a new baby, plans are for Justin to run in next year's Iditarod. Now, did you notice that Izzy had a hot pink snowsuit? A baby shower gift from DeeDee Jonrowe. Well, some of the same conditions that destroyed the High family's home exist right now. When we come back, lessons learned the hard way. 2 fire safety experts will tell us about how some wildfires got started and how they might have easily been prevented.
I just want cremation.
Cremation specialist in Alaska.
Can I have a service before cremation?
Our staff is committed to serving your needs.
I just want something basic. The simpler, the better.
Specializing in simple cremations. Whatever your reasons are for choosing cremation, call Cremation Society of Alaska, 277-2777, or in the Valley, 373-8627, and on the web at alaskacremation.com.
We have a story of 27 families that put 18 months of their lives into building a village, a home for themselves and their future. Our Inupiaq culture goes back thousands of years, carried by a strong sense of community. Our relationship with our natural surroundings is at the heart of our culture. By investing in future generations through development that is balanced with the love of our land, the Kupi Corporation brings together traditions of the past with visions of the future.
Air travel for Frontiers is provided by Pan Air. When business or recreation takes you anywhere across the state, Pan Air is there. The only family-owned airline serving Alaska. Pan Air, the spirit of Alaska.
When I got here, I heard this term, uniquely Alaskan. And I thought, what does that mean? Then I started covering these events, Iditarod, Mount Marathon, Arctic Winter Games, hockey games in 20 below. So now I know what uniquely Alaskan means.
Everyone has their limits.
FBI, drop your weapon! No!
But there are some that push the boundaries of fear.
Everything he does gives us a clue to what makes him tick.
They are hiding all around the world, hunting their prey. So we're going to the ends of the earth to hunt them.
It's not their job to worry about missing Americans. It's ours.
Criminal Minds Beyond Borders premieres Wednesday or stream it live or on demand.
Alaskans, be forewarned. Expect an early start to the wildfire season. Safety experts say the south central region of our state is warmer than normal, so fire activity will most likely pick up in April and May. In fact, starting the first of this month, burn permits in the Matanuska-Susitna area are required, and also now required for burn barrels. Several wildfires have already been reported this year. Last year, a very hard lesson learned from the Sockeye fire. Investigators believe it started when two people left a pile of burning debris on their property near Willow. Now, that small fire eventually charred more than 7,000 acres and caused more than $8 million in damage. The two accused of starting this fire, Greg Emmett and Amy DeWitt, are still awaiting a trial date. Court records say that they have a pre-trial conference set for March 30th in Palmer. Well, that was last year. Now we have this year, and conditions ripe for perhaps a repeat of last year. And joining us to talk about that, Doug Albrecht, who is the State Fire Prevention Manager, and Bill Gamble, Director of Emergency Services for the Mat-Su Borough. Well, I think maybe we should start off by talking about some of the lessons we learned from last year.
Good morning, Rhonda. Yes. Some things that we learned from the Sockeye fire are that homeowners may or may not be able to get insurance for their homes. Depending on where you live, you know, the area that you live, the access to your property, and how far you live from one of the local fire departments may determine whether an insurance company is going to insure your property or not. Another lesson that we learned from Sockeye fire is that people need to provide a defensible space around their homes. Basically a buffer from the vegetation that usually grows up near, you know, people's property. And we understand everybody wants to live in Alaska and live that rural lifestyle, but that's not always a safe way to live. You need to be able to clear back away from your home, protect your home by doing some fire-wise things is what we call, and you can find that information on the State of Alaska's forestry website.
Now, one of the things too it says here is to develop an evacuation plan. I guess most of us never think of that.
Right, that's another thing that we really learned on the Sockeye fire is a program that's called Ready, Set, Go. The homeowners have to have an evacuation plan in place. It helps us out immensely.
Especially when you got dogs. I mean, thousands of sled dogs in Willow. I mean, I guess you got to think about how you're going to do that. It's amazing, isn't it, that we didn't see more dogs die, or very few at all.
Right. It's my understanding that these dog mushing kennels have to have an evacuation plan, and it was just amazing to watch the mushers and the local community people from all over the valley in Alaska help the mushers evacuate their dogs and then provide boarding for them while they're away from their properties during the fire.
You know, and the other thing too is that people made choices to put their dogs first before their stuff, and that, you know, that's something to remember too, that people will perhaps make choices that they may regret or they may want to revisit. But anyway, one of the things that we should talk about is being able to escape from a fire or get to a fire. What challenges do you see out there?
Well, we call that ingress and egress from people's property, and it works multiple ways. One of the ways is for the people that live on the property to be able to safely get in and get out during a fire. The other thing is for the firefighters to be able to get in and get out safely during a fire. If the fire department comes up, or the State of Alaska Department of Forestry comes up, and they can't safely get in to protect the property and fight fire, they're not going to stop. They're not going to put their lives at too great a risk to save somebody's property that doesn't have it.
Can you give us an example of some of the things you encountered, like in the Sockeye fire?
Well, roads that had trees growing over the top of them or right up next to them, so the fire trucks, when they were going down the roads, the brush was actually banging up against the side of the trucks. And so if they come up to an area and it's on fire and they can't safely get their fire truck down that road, they're not going to go any further. They're going to back out.
I think people sometimes get frustrated, like, you're right here, you know, why are you letting my house burn down?
Exactly.
But so maybe you could let people know right now, what is it that you're going to consider if you back off of a home?
Well, one of the things that we call is consider is the triage. If the homes are not, the driveways cannot get down the driveways, or there's no defensible space around it, it's just going to create issues for the firefighters. And so we'll have to go on to the next home where we can actually try and protect it.
Right, and Doug's right. They're trained to do that. What we call triaging homes, as they go through a subdivision or a neighborhood, they will mark the homes that they believe can be protected, and they will mark in a different way homes that they believe are too unsafe to try and protect.
Well, one of the things that we saw in this fire, in the Sockeye fire, was the power of little teeny tiny embers drifting in the air to cause all kind of trouble. You know, we have a visual image here looking at how embers can attack a house. Can you talk about that, Doug?
Yeah, most of the times on fires like the Sockeye fire, people think that it's the large flame front that will burn their homes down. Not necessarily so. It'll be the ember shower that lands on your property or near your house. And so if you're not fire-wise and have defensible space, that fire is going to creep up into your home, or that ember shower is going to start the roof on fire. You have an open window, you have a lot of debris in your gutters, it's going to start that on fire and burn your home down.
It seems like, you know, a screen is a fairly cheap way to keep from losing your home. I mean, in the fires that you've seen, how powerful have those little embers been?
Very powerful. In fact, during the Miller's Reach fire in 1996, I would say the majority of the homes that we lost were after the flame front had gone through with a condition that Doug talked about called creep, because they hadn't provided that buffer around their house. The fire, after the flame front went through, kept creeping up to the house and caught the house on fire.
And maybe Miller's Reach is worth talking about. I mean, even though that was, what, how many years ago?
20 years this year.
And both of you were involved in fighting that fire.
That's correct.
And that was a much worse fire than the Sockeye, although the Sockeye fire and the Card fires in the Kenai Peninsula were pretty devastating.
Right.
They certainly had the potential to be a Miller's Reach.
I mean, how bad was Miller's Reach in terms of property?
Well, we saw almost 40,000 acres burn during Miller's Reach, most of it during the first 3 days, and over 500 structures actually destroyed.
Compared to 55 in the Willow area.
Yes, Miller's Reach went 2.5 miles, the flame front did, in 29 minutes. And so you have to understand how fast you have to be prepared to evacuate on something like that.
Now, we were just looking at images from the Card Street fire, the Kenai Peninsula. You know, one of the things that people worry about too is all the dead spruce bark beetle trees. Is that going to be a problem this summer?
Oh, it certainly is. The dead debris and pre-green up the dry grasses, that's there's a lot of debris fires.
At some that were just right outside of Wasilla.
Yes, we're getting 1 or 2 every day now and starting substantially early.
Does that frighten you to look at that?
Yes, it is.
It does, and we have 3 conditions that are pretty synonymous with our wildfire events. It's warm, there's low humidity, and there's a wind. And that's basically how Alaskan fires, the big fires, get started. It's a wind event. And so people have a burn barrel going, or they've got burning grass or debris in their yard, and there's a wind behind it, and before they know it, it gets away from them.
Let's talk a little bit about burn barrels, because I would imagine most people think, okay, I have a barrel, you know, I salvaged it from somewhere, it's good. My fire is not going to get out of hand. But what's the reality?
Well, the 65% of all the fires in Alaska right now being human-caused, debris fires and burn barrels are right at the top of the list.
And so what are things that you see wrong with some of the burn barrels that people have?
Probably the biggest one is unattended, or that they don't have a screen over the top of them to prevent the embers that Doug was talking about before from getting out and getting into the grass and starting the fire initially. And
how about space around them? Do people, you know, typically put them near a wood pile or something?
Well, we rarely see, it was supposed to be a 6-foot perimeter around the burn barrel, and we rarely see that. The number 1 and number 2 things I hear the most is from people that have escaped fires is, first of all, I just went inside for a few minutes, and second of all, I couldn't believe how fast that fire went.
Right. So they should also have some water source nearby too, a garden hose, if you will, something that can at least slow the fire down. Call 911 immediately, because the faster we get to these fires, the quicker we can get them under control before they become too big.
So is that a problem of people just thinking, we'll take care of it and not call?
Yeah, it won't happen to me, or I don't want to call 911. They're afraid to call 911.
Yeah, I suppose you could be liable if it spreads, quickly and it's going into somebody else's property.
Exactly. Once it leaves your property, you become liable for the damages that occur.
But then, so maybe you wouldn't call. So what is the incentive to call when things do get out of hand?
To prevent a very large disaster from occurring.
And that's probably, basically, what we saw with Sockeye, maybe, is that things got out of hand. Now, one thing I have heard people say is that they're in the Willow area, is they're going to watch each other and make sure if they see a burn going to check on it. Do you think that's a good thing to do?
It absolutely is. And fires like the Card Street in Sockeye really raise alarm with the neighborhoods for looking at defensible space, because it could happen in any of our neighborhoods.
Right. And we've seen that a lot since the Miller's Reach fire. People are very sensitive about fires now, so if they see anything that looks like it's getting out of hand, they're calling right away, and we appreciate that. It doesn't cost anything for us to come out and check out the burn to make sure that everything's being done safely.
All right, well, we want to thank both of you very much for joining us. Doug Albrecht, who is a state fire prevention manager, and we also have Bill Gamble, who's head of the emergency division of the Mat-Su Borough. Well, still ahead, a week of celebration at the Arctic Winter Games. The games are also about raising cultural awareness. Heather Hintze takes us to Nuuk, Greenland, where languages of the Arctic are alive and well.
At Spenard Builder Supply, we know it takes a lot of ingredients to get it just right. That's why we have design centers in every store to personalize the most important rooms in your home. We'll help you select cabinets, faucets, and appliances that fit your style. So all you have to worry about is how much oregano goes in Mom's pasta sauce. Spenard Builder Supply. Building for life.
Now offering financing with no payments or interest for 12 months. Visit our design experts today at your local Spenard Builder Supply.
The Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium provides comprehensive health services for Alaska Native and American Indian people across our state. In addition to world-class care at the Alaska Native Medical Center, our work delivers health services for rural Alaska. From cutting-edge technology for the best care possible, to modern construction of clean water systems and health clinics, to health training and outreach that honors our culture, our vision is that Alaska Native people are the healthiest people in the world.
As we talk about our future, we should always remember, it's not us versus them. It's only us, working together to find a balanced solution to our fiscal challenge, one that protects our economy and our unique quality of life, for now and for generations to come. We need a plan for Alaska that puts us on a path to prosperity. And we need that plan for Alaska now.
We're in Ruby, and it was on the thermometer 22 below. So I go inside, and I say, wow, it's 22 below. And she says, well, that thermometer's off by 6 degrees, so it's about 28. Guy sitting next to her chimes in, he says, well, that's not quite accurate as well, too. He says, you got to take another 7 degrees because you're up here, and so it's really about 35 below. And then someone else comes in and says, yeah, but then when you get the wind coming in, it's another 10 degrees. So he said, so really, a couple hundred yards away, you could be at 45 below. Mushers come in, and they say, gee, my thermometer bottomed out at 65 below. So we went from 22 below to 65 below, like that.
The Arctic Winter Games have wrapped up and Team Alaska is headed home from Nuuk, Greenland. Throughout this week, you could hear many different languages spoken at the Games. Heather Hintze says it's a reminder that we are all part of a greater global community.
Many of the signs here in Nuuk are written first in Greenlandic, then Danish, then English. Even the program guide for Arctic Winter Games is written in all 3 languages. Alaskans say being here is a reminder of how vital their language is to their culture.
Music is an art form that transcends cultures and languages. Greenland guitar player Mads Ole Christiansen speaks Greenlandic and Danish, but very little English.
Mostly English. My English I learned from television with the action movie.
He doesn't need words to be in harmony with Canadian fiddler Gustin Adjen. The music is part of a workshop for Greenlandic kids who are out of school during the Arctic Winter Games.
His name is Maluk.
Here in Greenland, the local language is thriving. All the public school kids are taught in their native Greenlandic. The Arctic Winter Games bring in athletes from around the world, and the sporting events are a melting pot of cultures.
Let's go, let's go, let's go!
In Alaska, it's rare to find young people who speak their native language fluently. Isaiah and Murphy Charles are the exception. At home, they speak fluent Yupik. Hearing the variety of languages encourages Alaskans to keep fighting to revive their own.
It's the ideal situation that we would like for our people in Alaska. I mean, this is what we look to in our future. This is what we want to envision, a place where the language is used in all forms.
24-year-old Kyle Whirl is Tlingit and Athabascan. He teaches a Tlingit class in Anchorage. Kyle says the games show what the language means to his people.
They are intertwined together, and without the language, you lose a lot of the culture.
He says bringing back the languages of Alaska, whether it's Tlingit, Inupiaq, or Yupik, will take everyone's help. It starts with the native youth realizing how important it is to speak like their ancestors. They're the voice of this new generation.
Some rural Alaskans say what was really interesting about being here in Greenland for the games is they were able to understand a little bit of the local language. Thank you in Greenlandic is Koyanak, which is almost the same in Yupik. For Frontiers, I'm Heather Hintze in Nuuk, Greenland.
The beauty of language, one of the many things that Heather Hintze gave us an appreciation for in her reports from Greenland. Well, thank you for being a part of our weekly conversation. It's always a privilege to spend time with great Alaskans and bring their stories to you. See you next week.